Thanks for tuning in today, guys. Today we're going to talk about one of my favorite subjects, tools, and what you need to get started doing your own maintenance and modification on your motorcycle without breaking the bank. So stay tuned. Now, this video is not a definitive list. It's aimed toward people that are just getting started doing any kind of maintenance and modification, whether it be for their motorcycle, their vehicles, or just tools to keep around the house. Below you'll find a list of the various tools that I talk about, along with some other things that'll get you started. You can also find a list on tremonte.tv/maintenance at this link. Now, the tools that I picked out are based on overall rating, review versus cost comparison. That way you can get a decent collection started without emptying your pockets. So thanks for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy these videos. There's definitely more to come. Alright guys, quick rundown on a few things that you'll need to get started. Number one on my list, something I keep on my motorcycle every day I use it, and that's simple tire gauge. This is a tool that you need to have, no matter if you're going to do your own maintenance or not. Get one of these little cheap tire gauges, throw it on your bike. Keep it with you at all times. It's very important that you keep proper air in your tires. They're cheap, there's no reason not to have one. Another object, clean your chain. Clean it regularly. If you ride in multiple seasons like I do, sometimes there's salt and slag on the road. You can see a video I made before, cleaning and maintain your chain, removing road grime. A grunge brush or chain brush. This thing here, it's invaluable to me. It's like $8 and does an excellent job of getting in between all the links and getting all the salt and grit out of the chain. It'll extend the life and the wear and keep the performance of the bike operating properly. So another object that you should throw in the toolbox. Now, as far as odd and end tools, if you want to do your own maintenance or put mods on the bike, a lot of people that watch my videos will notice that my number one favorite thing to use every single day, even outside of videos, is an impact driver. This one is actually a DeWalt. This is a commercial or industrial. I use this daily at work, everything else. In the description below, I've got one that's comparable to it at less than half the price. It's Black & Decker. Black & Decker actually owns and builds DeWalt. So you're getting pretty much the same quality for a fraction of the cost. Now, if you're going to go with an impact driver, you're going to need the adapters. Now, these adapters are cheap, couple bucks, and you can snap it right into your impact. You can drive 1/4, 3/8, or 1/2-inch sockets or other devices with this. Very, very handy to have. And if you're going to go with that, working on a motorcycle, they're going to have a lot of hex bits, button head, cap screws, things of that nature. You're going to need Allens. Now, if you have the impact and you have the adapters, you can get some of these handy little sockets. Snap right onto your adapter. They vary in size. The small ones take the 1/4 up to 3/8, and then the super large ones, which you won't use on a bike like this, but go up to 1/2-inch drive. This is all metric. Fits the Kawasaki. I have a standard set as well. These are invaluable, and like I said, if you watch some other videos, you'll see I use them all the time. Another thing that's handy to have is an assortment of screwdrivers. Now, screwdrivers, you may not use them near as much on this motorcycle, but if you change any of the levers, you want to put anything onto the battery accessory wise, it's good to use a screwdriver so you don't over torque and strip things out. You can also use a nut driver, but you can also over torque and strip battery terminals with those on a bike. It's really easy to do that. I like using screwdrivers for those small jobs. You can get a set of these, a good variety, very cheap. Again, links are in the description. It'll get you a starting point. If you don't go with an impact or the adapters, You'll still need the Allens. I bought this little pocket set, I think from Walmart or Lowe's, I don't remember which. It was only a few dollars. I can throw this in my backpack if I need to do anything on the bike, on the road. If a piece of plastic for some reason comes loose, if I need to get to a fuse, I can get to it with this. It's a lot easier and more compact than the kit that comes on the bike. I don't have to remove the seat and undo the band and all that. I can just reach into my pack, bam, I'm good to go. And for at home or around the shop, you can go with a set of T-handles. Now if you need to put a little bit of extra torque on something to really tighten it down, such as foot pegs, and again, no impact driver, these T-handles give you a little bit longer reach, and by the dual purpose here, you can get some nice torque out of them as well. These can be had relatively cheap as well. Now if you're going to delve into anything that's a little more involved as far as removing the tire to replace a chain, sprockets, or anything of that nature, it's really important that you have a torque wrench for when you assemble everything back together. Even as far as frame sliders or things of that nature, you need to make sure that everything is tightened back properly. Torque wrench, a decent one, can be had at a reasonable price without going with Craftsman, Snap-on, Armstrong, things of that nature. Now in my day-to-day work, I do have calibrated torque wrenches, but for around the house I have just a simple Pittsburgh from Harbor Freight. I think I paid maybe 20 bucks for this tops, and it's very close to what I actually use that's calibrated. So don't be afraid to go and get something that's a little bit cheaper, especially for occasional use. Now again, if you're going to remove the wheels, the sprockets, or things of that nature, you're going to need the right size sockets. And for that, I've got some impact rated large size 6-point sockets. Now most impact, or about all impact sockets, are going to be 6-point, meaning it only has 6 sides, so you get a nice firm grip on those large crown nuts. You don't want to use a 12-point socket for something that takes a lot of torque, because you can actually strip out the socket itself, even the higher dollar name brand stuff, and eventually you could possibly strip the bolt out as well. Then you're really in trouble. Now on most motorcycles, you only need to loosen the crown nut and the opposite side will stay put. But if it doesn't, you can either buy another socket to fit that side, or you can go with a large crescent wrench. I use this thing frequently for multiple jobs when I need something that'll do all and has a little bit of free play to it. If a bolt is slightly rounded or whatever, I can adjust this down and get a good grip on it. So a good crescent wrench is always something nice to have. Another thing that's handy is an assortment of pliers, cutters, and strippers. Now I like the old-fashioned slip joint pliers. I use these things for compressing springs, holding on to a piece while I'm drilling, whatever. These, along with a set of channel locks or other slip joint pliers, are invaluable in my toolbox. Also, a set of cutters is nice to have if you're doing any wiring or need to get into wire loom. These right here will give you a nice clean cut so you don't damage anything inside or underneath. Do not use razor blade or pocket knife. You run the risk of actually damaging something. Also, if you're going to do any wiring, a good set of strippers. Now these also have the little bolt cutters for standard 1032, 1024, 832 size screws. Typically won't use those on a motorcycle, but it's nice to have if you're going to do any electrical work around the house as well. And if you're also going to do any wiring on the bike, a good set of crimpers. Now this set here I've had probably for 15 years. I use these almost daily, doing butt splices, fork terminals, you name it, any type of stake-on connector, I use these. And again, for me, these are invaluable. Now let's get down to the meat and potatoes of what you really need as far as unbolting and bolting things on the motorcycle. You need a socket set. On Japanese bikes such as the Kawasaki, we're going to use strictly metric. This set here is a basic off-the-shelf crescent set. I think this set was a gift from someone a few Christmases ago. I leave it here in the garage. It's handy to have. As you see, it's mostly 12-point sockets, so you don't want to put a lot of torque on these above, say, 50 foot-pounds. You run the risk of actually stripping things out with them. Very basic. It's a 3/8 drive, extensions. You got a few deep wells, got a spark plug socket, which is also handy to have if you're going to do work on motorcycle. Don't think that one is the correct size for this bike, but I do have another set as well. But it's good to have. They're cheap. You can get a full set of combo metric and standard sockets for around $20. I am a person that definitely not afraid to go to Harbor Freight or anywhere else and get the Pittsburgh brand stuff. It holds up extremely well compared to my commercial grade stuff. Especially for using it at home and on projects such as the bike. Now, another thing you want to look at are going to be open end or boxed end wrenches. Here I've got just a couple to show you. These are standard. I just grabbed them out real quick so I could use them for props for the video, but still, you're going to be needing metric for Z650 or any other Japanese bike or Italian, as everything is pretty much metric on those bikes. These will get you into tight places when you can't get a socket in. Anyway, these things come in handy. So you can also get a combo set of sockets and wrenches fairly cheap. I have another set I keep in one of my vehicles that I picked up clearance from Lowe's. It's the standard metric 3/8 drive socket set along with combination open end, boxed in, standard and metric wrenches, $20. It's a Cobalt brand. It's great just to keep in the little truck there if I have any trouble, need to change the thermostat or whatever on the side of the road. That would also be a good set to keep here at the house to work on my motorcycle if needed. And if you guys keep your eyes out, sometimes you can come across those deals, especially around Father's Day. Again, if you're going to remove the rear wheel tire sprockets or anything that's under high torque or tension, you're going to need a breaker bar. Now, breaker bar, you just snap your large size socket onto, and you can really get some good torque and tension to break loose those stubborn bolts. And that's going to give you the ability to do so without damaging your torque wrench or any other calibrated device. You don't have to worry about stripping gears out of your socket or anything of that nature. So a breaker bar can come in handy if you ever intend on taking wheels or sprockets off. And also, a nice rubber or soft material hammer is nice to have if you ever need to tap on anything. Putting the axles back in if they're being a little aggravating for you. You don't want to use metal hammer because you can damage the surfaces. You don't want to hammer metal to metal on a motorcycle. Use something that's soft and will not damage the bolts or materials. So, soft hammer. Let's see, needle nose pliers. This is good to get in those annoying little vacuum lines and spring retainers that hold those in place. You can reach in there and compress the spring, pop them off, especially under the gas tank. These come in handy. You can also get these in the pliers set listed below. And also, if you want to do any major maintenance on the bike or even for storage purposes, I highly recommend wheel stands, both the front and rear. On mine, I'm using the Venom on this bike. I got the front and rear, the front being a triple tree for I think right at or less than $100. It works great, it serves its purpose. Now on the Z650, the actual hole into the bottom where the triple tree fits is extremely large, and for that I just slip, I believe it's a 22 millimeter socket, or no, excuse me, it's 22 millimeter outer diameter. It's a 19 millimeter socket that I have. I just stuck it on the triple tree and it takes up the play very nicely. But I highly recommend if you're going to store a bike for more than a few days or even for maintenance, it makes things so much more easy and convenient. If you're going to change exhaust, it gives you more clearance. doing your chain maintenance and cleaning. You can freely spin the tire without having to roll the bike and get up and move. You can set the bike up and knock it all out in just a minute or two. So extremely helpful to have those. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. There's more to come in the future. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have riding to do. Ride safe.